Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Travis Cloer. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, make sure to go back and check it out. Now, for the rest of the interview.
So you would have done it differently?
Oh, yeah, I would have, had I known what actually had happened.
Yeah.
Because this was the first time it had ever happened to me, so I wasn't really sure what was going on. I thought maybe I was just tired or just maybe had a sore throat or something like that, just wasn't feeling well. But looking back now, yeah, I would have finished whatever scene I was in and ran over to the stage manager and said, I'm sorry, but this isn't going to happen.
Wow.
You're going to have to take a break and get the understudy ready and to finish the show.
So do you know of any cases where this could have finished a singer's career?
Yeah, I mean, if you let it go on long enough and if you don't let yourself heal, there's a lot of different ways that it can impact you negatively and even, take life off of your career, if not ended like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no
People
idea
don't think
about
about
this.
these kind of things when,
No,
when
not
they
at
think
all.
of singing. They just think, people come out and they got a great voice or they got a nice range and they sing songs and it's pretty and it moves you. But, it's like any other athlete. You got to take care of yourself. You can't go out and screaming at the clubs and drinking all night long. And it's really taking care of yourself and living like an athlete and getting proper rest and drinking fluids and exercising and just, doing what you need to do so that you can stay healthy.
Wow. Incredible. I never knew about that. But let's talk about transition. What was it like? You spent 10 years of your life doing this, and then you transitioned out of the Jersey Boys.
Yeah. It's the show closed, I think, in September of 2016. And since then, before then, I had been doing some solo work as well, solo performances, writing, recording. And after the show ended, I was still auditioning for, and have been auditioning for other things, whether it's on the stage or TV or film. But what's really been keeping me going has been performing as a solo artist now, whether it's, again, on ships or casinos or performing arts centers. That's what's really been keeping me going the last 4 years, I guess it is, until, everything fell apart last year.
So and I've asked this to a bunch of actors and musicians. I'm curious about this. When something like that ends 10 years into it, when you leave, when you're walking out the door, the next day, what's your emotional state?
Oh, man. It's funny you should ask that. The next day was technically our day off. So the next day felt just like any other day. The next what would have been the next performance day was brutal. It felt like a train hit me. I wasn't warming up. I wasn't getting ready to go do the show. I didn't go in and see my friends. And we were, I think, sitting there on the balcony, my wife and I, when it was supposed to be time to do the show. And my phone just started blowing up with texts from everybody that was in the show. So we'd be doing this right now, and it was emotional, man. It was very emotional. It felt like a big chunk of my life had, come to a close.
How was your mental health at that time?
Oh, it was good. I felt so proud of what we had done and what we have accomplished and the love and the joy that we spread by telling this story and singing this music. So I think, that part of it outweighed the fear of, okay, my job's gone now.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of people that we know. So Michael Peterson, how'd you guys meet?
We met here in Las Vegas. I think the first time I saw him was at there's this show that we do here in town called the Composers Showcase, which is basically a writer's night. It's basically, any of the songwriters in Las Vegas, we get together once a month and we just share our songs. It's great because we do it at one of the performing arts centers here in town called the Smith Center. So, I mean, it's fully produced. We've got great sound and all the musicians around town are so cool about this one particular show, because if you reach out to any of them and say, hey, I need a trumpet player on this song that I'm that I'm gonna present at the showcase. Everybody's always in. It's a really, really great writing and creative community here. So the first time I saw Michael was at that show, and he presented one of his songs, and I don't think there's been any songs of his that I haven't really liked or that have not blown me away in one way or another.
Yeah.
Great writer, man.
I've got a bunch of his albums now. What about Frankie?
I met Frankie while I was still in Jersey Boys. He and his band were playing at a lounge here at one of the hotels, and I would go see him. And again, we just met, around town while we were doing, special appearances. Jersey Boys was there, and Frankie and his band were there, and we just started hitting off and talking. And he came to see our show, I'd go to see his show, and we just developed this friendship over the years that has turned into this great creative relationship.
We really got into labels and streaming and all of that when we were talking to him. What are some of your thoughts on all this stuff that's going on right now?
Man, it's such a weird world to navigate right now with the music business, and I don't know. I find myself feeling two different ways about it, I guess. I think that it's great because it's giving so many people a chance to be heard, but at the same time, it's giving so many people a chance to be heard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not all of it's great, and it's kind of muddying the pool a little bit, I guess is a way to say it. And there's just a lot of competition now, and the whole streaming thing is just it's like a full-time job navigating that alone. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it can become, I find it a little overwhelming, and it kind of clouds the creative juices a little bit, and kind of just gets a little discouraging sometimes. So yeah, I think it's great in that way, but at the same time, I don't know. But hey, it's the way things are now. So we either have to deal with it or find some other way.
Do you do much on social?
I try to. Yeah, I know how important social media is, and so I am really upping my game and trying to be the presence that I need to be to continue to stay in the game and to develop relationships and pick up new fans. But again, that's another full-time job, man.
It is, yeah. And the other part too, you got to have thick skin. You got a bunch of jerks that can be out there. And I'm not sure who it was. Maybe it was Leo Rossi it might have been Anthony Milcuri. He said he posts and goes. He doesn't even, but then you got to have that engagement. It's tough to do.
I kind of go back and forth between those two schools of post and ghost, and come back on to see if there's anybody that I need to engage with, so that I keep that engagement going. But recently I've found the post and ghost method is at least working for my sanity. What I mean? So.
All right. So just another question about Broadway. What sets the great Broadway performances apart from the others?
That's a good question. I think a lot of dedication, a lot of just, I'm thinking of how I prepare for roles. And it's a lot of internal work, it's a lot of trying to break down a character and trying to find out what makes them tick. And the people that can do that the best can really, really shine from the stage. You add that to a voice that's very well trained and can act through the song, and you've got a home run, man.
Yeah. Well, I got a tough question for you this time. This whole COVID year. So with Broadway being shut down until 2021, how have you been dealing with COVID?
It's a day-by-day thing, I think not only for me, but I think a lot of people. Messes with your head, when your entire life has really been taken away from you. But I've been using this time to write and to practice and to continue to create, either releasing singles or creating videos online. But yeah, it's been tough, man, and I think that just about every single person in show business will tell you the same. But who said show business was easy? But I don't think any of us knew this pandemic was going to hit.
I don't think a lot of people realize. Yeah, but people don't realize. Well, getting food, ordering food, that's all right. Small businesses are being affected. We see restaurants closing. I don't think a lot of us think about how it's affected the entertainment industry, live performances, bars, gigs.
And I don't think anybody really, I don't want to say anybody, but a lot of people.
A lot of people
get how impacted this business has been. I mean, we went from, doing what we love to the very next day saying you are not going to be able to do that, and we don't know when you're going to be able to do it again. That was devastating. To see my calendar of events just completely wiped clean for the near future. I've been doing some small shows around Las Vegas. We've been adhering to the local guidelines as far as the safety and protocols go, but still, it's nothing like it was. Those are few and far between, and even trying to get people to come to those, people are understandably reluctant to go out and sit at a venue, regardless if you're sitting 6 feet away or if you're wearing a mask. It's still that mentality of something still isn't quite right, so I don't know if I should go out tonight, kind of thing.
Yeah. So what does the typical small gig look like in Vegas right now?
Before the pandemic hit, I was using, my band consisted anywhere from 4 to 8 pieces. When I was playing some of the larger cruise ships, it would go up to 9 to 10 pieces. If I do anything, it's me and the piano player. Maybe we'll throw in a sax, but just because, the sheer amount of money that's not there, you don't have money to pay guys. And then as far as the venues go, the places I've played, we can only do 25% capacity, or I can't remember there's a cap on people that can come in once it gets over 25% capacity. So it's, they're tiny venues. People are very welcoming and so excited to have live music and to be entertained, but it's just, it's not there yet. We're still fighting hard here in Las Vegas and in the States, and it's going to be that way for quite a bit longer, I'm afraid.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh, man. So how have you been able, during this whole COVID crisis, how have you been able to maintain your creativity?
That's another good question. And again, it's one of those things that comes day by day. When it first hit, it was a little bit more, it was easier to do because, we all kind of thought that it was going to go away a little quicker. So everybody was like, well, I'll just, hop online and sing a song for people. And I was doing that and was creating videos and posting them on my YouTube channel. But I think the thing that has kept me going creatively is just the fact that there's nothing that satisfies me the way that does, whether it's, just sitting down with a guitar or producing, some type of fully produced video to share online or releasing a single. There's nothing that really gives me that kind of joy. And since I can't find that joy from being on stage right now, I need to fill that part up inside of me. And so I come up here in my little studio and I try to get the creative juices flowing. It's been really great though. This time I've been able to spend at home with my wife and my kids, time that I never would have had, so I'm trying to appreciate that as well.
How old are your kids?
I got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh, great age. Oh, super. What are they doing? Are they going to school or is it still homeschooling?
They had been doing homeschool this full year until a couple of weeks ago. My son went back. He's in first grade. He went back for, I think, 3 hours in the morning he goes. And then for the second half of the day, he is online. My daughter in the third grade is still completely online, but she's going to be going back in the morning, hopefully in a couple of weeks.
They went back to school, or your son did. It's not school like we remember it. How did he deal with that?
He was so excited. He's loved every second of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
His class is limited again.
Yeah.
They're in masks all day. Their desks are spread apart. But he's just excited to be back there with his friends and learning in a different way with an actual teacher instead of looking at her through the computer.
Would that drive you crazy?
Yeah, man. But, I've said to a lot of people, I said, kids are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. And they're a lot
Oh,
more
yeah.
adaptable than we give them credit for. We can see how hard it would be, but they don't really see that. They're like, oh, I've got to go to school. This is how I'm doing school. Okay, I'll do school.
Yeah.
You know?
And, this is something I was just going to ask you. You're a world-class Broadway performer, you're a composer, you're a musician, and you're also a parent. So how is that during this whole time period?
It just grabs all of them and shakes them up. And every day it's like, okay, well, what are we going to get today? It's like a game of Yahtzee. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we roll it. It's like, oh, I got to be with my kids at school all day today. I can't, head up to the studio. Some days there's, some empty time where I can sit down and do some things. Other days there's not. And, that's how it is, because we're all at home right now and they have things that they need me for, at school, other things that they need me for that they wouldn't necessarily have needed me for before all this happened. But it's oddly satisfying, to be able to be there for them like this, to help
Right.
them grow and to experience this part of their life, like I said before, that I wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, whenever I will think of COVID, oddly enough, the positive part is family all got back together,
Yeah,
which
without a doubt, man. 100%.
that was not ever supposed to happen in my lifetime.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been such a blessing throughout this horrible ordeal, to be able to spend this time with my wife and my kids and my dogs that are getting older. And, I think about that, and I think about, well, what if something would have happened this year and I would have been on the road somewhere, and so I just try to look at that silver lining, and to just appreciate every day for what it is. Try not to think too far down the road. That's a little hard to do sometimes, especially in show business. You're trying to figure out, okay, what can I do next? Where's the next gig coming from? What's the next show? But I try to keep it, the blinders on a little bit so I don't look too far down the road.
Right. So throughout your life, it could be your career, it could be something else. You must have had some struggles. You want to get into some?
Yeah.
And basically what I want to hear is I want to know the struggle, how it happened, and then what you did to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, I let's start now and work backwards, I guess. I think one of the struggles, like we were just talking about, is trying to not look too far down the road, because right now we have no idea when things are going to, get back to normal, and we're going to be able to do what we were doing. And when we are able to do that, what's that even going to look like? So that messes with my mind quite a bit. There's times when, I'm sitting there or lying there in bed, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and for some reason my mind just starts running a million miles a minute, with all these things that I have absolutely no control over. And I think a lot of the times the problem is trying to get control when you don't have control. And there's only so much of that we can do, because there's just so much stuff right now that there are no answers to. And I don't know if I've come up with a surefire way of dealing with that yet, other than, I'll say a little prayer and give it up to God and ask for strength to not let it, affect me in a negative way, so that I can stay focused on what I need to do for what I can do for my career right now, what I need to do for my family right now, and to stay focused and just keep moving forward like we said, on a daily basis right now.
Very good. Interesting point. Going a little bit further back, do you have any other struggles or a struggle that comes to mind that you had to overcome to get where you are?
Yeah, I think about the first time that I left New York. We were talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I was there, and I was working, and I was going to auditions in the day and waiting tables at night, and repeat. And I had some success. I got cast in some shows, touring thing, and a local thing that got me into the Actors Union. So there was some success, but at the time I was just feeling so beat up by show business, the rat race that is New York City. And I couldn't take it, man. It really it really just weighed me down and beat me up. So a lot of that is the reason that I left. I felt in a way almost like I was giving up, but I just needed to get out and recoup, I think. I was still performing when I left New York. You know, I didn't jump out of show business altogether, but I had just had enough of New York City at that time. And there was a time after I left that I just felt like I had given up, you know. And the way that I got out of that was to just keep performing and find ways to stay creative and keep singing and getting on stage again. And then this whole Jersey Boys thing rolled around, and it brought me back to New York City without me even being in New York City, you know, and got me on Broadway, and I wasn't even living in New York at the time. So those kinds of struggles, I think every actor is going to tell you they have, or you know, every musician or show business. There's times that this business can just, it's horrible. I don't know why I chose it, other than I know what kind of joy it brings me, you know, and that's what I'm always chasing.
Right. I don't know your business, but what are the odds of me sending in a recording to a casting director and getting them to listen to it?
Man, I don't know. I really don't know, because this was like I said back in 2005. Nowadays, the world of self-taping and sending in an audition has really taken off, you know, because it's more convenient, it saves time. You don't have to rent out a rehearsal studio. People can just do their stuff at home and send it in. So this was before all that happened. And so for them to listen to it, I don't know, man. I guess it was just meant to be. I'm very happy that they did.
Yeah, I bet you are. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and let's talk about your greatest success. What is it?
Well, I think professionally would have to be Jersey Boys. It has been a dream of mine since I was in high school to be in a Broadway show. And at the time, I joined the hottest Broadway show that was playing at the moment. And I ended up playing this lead role for nearly 10 years. So I look back at that accomplishment and I feel very proud, not only for getting there, but to be able to continue doing it for that long, you know, and to touch so many people with this music and with this story. I feel very proud about that.
Very good. We're winding down. I have to say, you know what? This flew by. This has been great. I've loved talking to you about everything, especially, you know, from Jersey Boys, what you're doing now, how you're handling COVID. Very interesting comments. I loved you being so candid with us.
Sure, man.
So I do have a question for you, though. And actually, it's not the question that you think I'm going to ask. But how do people either get your music? Where can they find more about you? I know that you have a website. Where can people grab your music outside of Apple?
Yeah, you can, there's a couple different places. I'm all over social media. Travis Cloer Music, either on Instagram or Facebook. My music's on Spotify, on Apple Music, or you can go to my website, traviscloer.com, and all the links to everything are right there.
And soon to be on Clubhouse.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, now the question. At the end of every podcast, we ask our guests one question, and is if they know a guy.
I do. I was thinking about this. I know a couple of guys. One of them is, well, they both have been my music directors in different forms. One is a guy that I've been playing with recently. His name is Chris Lash. He is a fantastic piano player. He is a great composer himself. And he was one of our assistant directors and keyboard players in Jersey Boys. He and I have this relationship. We're developing some projects right now. We're writing together and getting some things ready to go once COVID gets the hell out of here. He was also in the Broadway show $1 Million Quartet playing Jerry Lee Lewis. So he's a great guy. Another great guy that I think would be a good fit for you guys is my buddy Keith Thompson. He was our #1 music director in Jersey Boys here in Las Vegas. He also is the guy that put together the composer showcase that we were talking about, where I first saw Michael Peterson perform.
Yeah.
And he's a fantastic composer, such a huge heart. He has set up a couple of different funds for musicians and actors that are in need right now in Las Vegas because of COVID.
Right.
And he's a wine connoisseur. He is a sommelier. He's just a great and interesting guy. So either one of those guys, I'll put you in touch with them. I'll send you their information. But I think either one of those guys would be a great fit for you.
Well, that's fantastic. All right. Well, it has been a pleasure speaking with you. I hope we can keep in touch. And yeah, maybe we can get you back on another podcast. We'll get you, Michael, and Frankie on a podcast.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. We'll do a couple numbers for you guys.
That I'd love. All right. Okay. We'll be talking to you soon.
Norm, thanks a lot, man.
Hey, no problem.
I'll talk to you soon.
So I guess it's a good thing your kindergarten teacher stopped you from your pursuance of Broadway, right?
I guess so. I mean, it's I've heard of off Broadway, but this would have been more like off tune, out of pitch Broadway, So lucky there's guys like Travis out there that, are showstoppers. Listen to what he had to say.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I really didn't. I'm so naive to the business. But, when he was talking about his throat,
imagine
his vocal
not
cords,
speaking for, 6 weeks?
6 weeks. And like he says, that's his moneymaker.
Yeah. It's not an easy gig.
No. Especially that, when you're talking about Jersey Boys, that was a tough go.
Wow. What inspiration. And I mean, it's also great to see him transition during this time too, into focusing more on music and like making the best of the times we're in.
Well, I think it's like every single person that we've had on here, they act like an entrepreneur. They can turn on a dime. They're resilient and they're positive. Mm-hmm. I think that makes the difference. And again, every single person we've had on this podcast seem to have the same traits, a common denominator.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, I guess that wraps up this episode.
It does. And so now we've got to reach out to his referrals, and I can't wait to talk to them.
Yeah. We'll see what comes our way.
All right.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening, guys and gals. Up next week, we have Alexandros Washburn. Alexandros was the architect and designer of the recently completed Penn Station. You won't want to miss it. We really go down some paths that I had never considered before to do with modern architecture in a city like New York. Ended up being super fascinating. Anyway, that's enough of me, and I'll see you next time.